They dragged me into the throne room in chains, and every wolf in the court turned to watch me fall. I was bleeding, barefoot, dressed in rags that barely covered the scars on my back. The Alpha King sat above them all, carved from stone and fury, his silver eyes cutting through me like a blade. He thought I was nothing, a human, weak, breakable, a mistake his guards made when they raided the border camps. But when his hand touched mine to throw me out, something ancient stirred in the air between us. The room went silent. His wolf surfaced behind his eyes, wild and stunned, and I felt it too. The pull, the burn, the impossible truth I'd hidden my entire life. I wasn't human. I never had been. I was the one they said died 20 years ago, the lost daughter of the moon, and he was my mate. Chapter 1. I learned early that survival meant silence. In the camps, the humans who spoke too loud, who asked too many questions, who tried to fight back, they didn't last. So I kept my head down, worked until my hands bled, and pretended I didn't feel the strange hum beneath my skin every time the full moon rose. Pretended I didn't heal faster than I should. Pretended I didn't dream of forests I'd never walked through and voices calling a name I didn't recognize. The night they came for us, I was scrubbing floors in the east wing of the camp barracks. The attack was swift and brutal. Wolves poured through the gates like shadows made flesh, their growls shaking the walls. I heard screaming, smelled blood, saw the other workers running, scattering into the dark. I should have run too, but my legs wouldn't move. Something about the wolves felt familiar, like a song I used to know. One of them found me frozen in the hallway. He was massive, black fur streaked with silver, eyes glowing amber in the dim light. He shifted mid-stride, becoming a man with scars across his chest and a blade in his hand. He looked at me like I was nothing, like I was prey. "Human," he spat. "You're coming with us." I didn't fight when he grabbed my arm. There was no point. I'd seen what happened to humans who resisted wolves. He dragged me outside where others were being rounded up, shoved into a cart with iron bars. I didn't understand why they wanted us. The camps were neutral territory. We had no value, no worth. We were just labor. Disposable. The journey to the capital took 3 days. We weren't given food, barely any water. The other prisoners cried, begged, prayed to gods who didn't answer. I stayed quiet and watched the landscape change through the bars. Dense forests gave way to mountains. The air turned colder, sharper, and that hum under my skin grew stronger with every mile. When we finally arrived, they separated us. Most were taken to the dungeons, but I was pulled aside, handed over to a different set of guards. They didn't explain, just dragged me through corridors of black stone and torchlight until we reached 2 enormous doors carved with wolves and moons. "The king wants to see this one," someone muttered. My heart hammered. I'd heard stories about the Alpha King. Everyone had. He was the most powerful wolf alive, ruthless and cold, a leader who'd united the packs through fear and bloodshed. They said he didn't feel, didn't love, didn't forgive. They said his wolf was a monster, that he'd killed his own father to take the throne, that he was cursed never to find his mate. The doors opened. They shoved me forward. The throne room was vast, filled with wolves in fine clothes, their eyes sharp and hungry. At the center of it all, elevated on a dais of black marble, sat the king. He was younger than I expected, maybe late 20s, but he carried the weight of centuries. Dark hair, sharp jaw, a face too beautiful to be so cruel, and those eyes, silver, piercing, ancient, locked onto me the moment I stumbled into view. I hit the floor hard, my chains rattling. Silence fell. He leaned forward slightly, studying me. "This is what you brought me? A human?" "She was in the camp, Your Majesty," one of the guards said quickly. "You thought wrong." His voice was low, edged with danger. "I have no use for weak blood." He rose from his throne, descending the steps with a predator's grace. Every wolf in the room tensed. I couldn't breathe. He stopped in front of me, towering, radiating power that made my bones ache. He reached down, grabbed my chin, forced me to look up at him. His fingers were warm, too warm. The moment his skin touched mine, the world fractured. A shock of heat tore through me, so intense I gasped. His eyes went wide. His wolf surfaced, blazing silver, and I felt him, like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. The bond snapped into place, brutal and undeniable, a golden thread pulling tight between us. Mate! The word echoed in my mind, primal and absolute. His wolf snarled it. My blood sang it, but it was impossible. I was human. Humans didn't have mates. Humans didn't feel the bond. Unless I wasn't human at all. He jerked his hand back like I'd burned him. His expression shifted from shock to fury. What are you? I couldn't answer. I didn't know. But deep inside, something woke up. Something that had been sleeping my entire life. Power unfurled in my chest, wild and bright, and for a split second I saw it, a flash of memory that wasn't mine. A woman with silver hair, a crown of moonlight, a baby crying in the dark. Answer me! His voice cracked like thunder, but before I could speak, a woman stepped forward from the crowd. She was stunning, draped in silk, her red hair cascading like blood. She looked at me with pure venom. My king, she purred. Surely you don't believe this filthy creature is your... Get her out of my sight. He cut her off, his jaw tight. Lock her up. I'll deal with this later. The guard seized me again, hauling me toward a side exit. I looked back at him, and for just a moment our eyes met. He was breathing hard, his fists clenched, his wolf clawing at the surface. He felt it too. And he hated it. Chapter 2. The cell they threw me in was dark, cold, and smelled like old blood. I sat in the corner, knees pulled to my chest, trying to make sense of what had happened. The bond was still there, humming beneath my ribs, a constant reminder that everything I thought I knew about myself was a lie. I wasn't human. I couldn't be. Humans didn't feel the mate bond. Humans didn't make an alpha king lose control. But if I wasn't human, then what was I? I closed my eyes and reached for that flash of memory again. The woman, the crown, the crying baby. It felt important. Like a piece of a puzzle I'd been missing my whole life. But every time I tried to hold on to it, it slipped away. Hours passed. Maybe days. I had no way to tell. They didn't bring food, didn't bring water. I started to wonder if he just decided to let me starve. Then, late one night, the door opened. I scrambled to my feet, expecting guards. Instead, a young woman stepped inside. She was small, with kind eyes and a nervous energy. She carried a tray with bread and water, and she set it down quickly, glancing over her shoulder. You shouldn't be here, I said. Neither should you, she whispered. But I had to see for myself. Is it true? Are you really his mate? I didn't know how to answer that. I don't know what I am. She stared at me for a long moment, then crouched down, lowering her voice even further. There are rumors. The court is going insane. Some think you're a spy, others think you're a witch, but there are a few who remember the old stories. What stories? About the Moon Princess, the one who was stolen as a baby, the one everyone thought was dead. Her eyes searched mine. They say she had a mark, a crescent moon on her left shoulder blade. My blood went cold. I'd always had that mark. A pale scar, shaped like a crescent. I thought it was just a birthmark, something meaningless. The girl saw the truth in my face. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh gods, it's you. You're her. No, I said quickly. That's impossible. I grew up in the camps. I'm nobody. Or someone hid you there. She stood backing toward the door. You have to be careful. If the king finds out who you really are, he won't, I said, because I don't even know who I am. She left, and I was alone again. But her words haunted me. The Moon Princess, stolen as a baby. I pulled my shirt aside and twisted to look at my shoulder. The mark was there, pale and faint, exactly where she said it would be. The next time the door opened, it wasn't the girl. It was him. The Alpha King stepped into my cell, and the space seemed to shrink around him. He didn't speak at first. Just stood there, arms crossed, his silver eyes locked on me like he was trying to see through my skin. I should kill you, he said finally. Then do it. His jaw tightened. You don't understand what you've done. The bond, it's a weakness, a distraction. I can't afford either. I didn't ask for this, I shot back. I didn't even know it was possible. He moved closer and I forced myself not to retreat. You're human. Humans don't have wolves. Humans don't have mates. So tell me, what are you really? I don't know. Liar. I'm not lying. My voice cracked. I don't know what I am. I've spent my whole life thinking I was nothing, and now you're telling me I'm something impossible, and I don't have any answers. He stared at me, and for a moment something shifted in his expression, something almost like understanding, but it was gone as fast as it came. The council wants you executed, he said. They think you're a threat. And what do you think? He didn't answer. Instead, he turned and walked to the door, but before he left, he looked back at me one last time. Stay alive, he said quietly, until I figure out what to do with you. The door slammed shut, and I realized something terrifying. He wasn't going to kill me, but he wasn't going to save me either. Chapter 3. They moved me from the cell to a room in the East Wing. It wasn't a prison, but it wasn't freedom either. The door was locked from the outside. Guards stood watch. I was given clean clothes, food, a bed, but no answers. I spent my time staring out the window at the Capitol below. It was beautiful in a harsh way, all stone and shadow, wolves moving through the streets with purpose and power. I didn't belong here. I didn't belong anywhere. The girl from the cell visited me again. Her name was Lila, and she worked in the kitchens. She was the only person who didn't look at me like I was a curse. The king hasn't spoken about you since that night, she told me sitting on the edge of my bed. But the whole court is talking. Lady Vivian is furious. Who's Vivian? The king's companion. Lila hesitated. She's been trying to become his chosen mate for years. She thought she was close. And then you showed up. I laughed bitterly. She has nothing to worry about. He hates me. He doesn't hate you, Lila said carefully. He's terrified of you. Why? Because you're the first thing he's ever wanted that he can't control. Her words stayed with me long after she left. That night, I couldn't sleep. The bond was restless, pulling at me, urging me towards something I couldn't name. I paced the room until I couldn't stand it anymore. I tried the door. It was unlocked. I froze. This had to be a trap, but the pull was too strong. I stepped into the hallway, moving quietly, following the bond like a thread leading me through the dark. It led me to a garden, hidden behind the castle, overgrown and wild, lit only by the moon. And there, sitting on a stone bench, was the Alpha King. He looked up when I approached. He didn't seem surprised. You shouldn't be here, he said. Neither should you. He almost smiled. Almost. I come here when I need to think. I sat down on the opposite end of the bench, keeping distance between us. The bond hummed, desperate to close that gap. Why did you unlock my door? I asked. I didn't. Then who did? He didn't answer. We sat in silence, the night air cold against my skin. Finally, he spoke. I've been investigating you, he said, trying to figure out where you came from, who you are. My heart raced. And you don't exist. No records, no family. It's like you appeared out of nowhere 20 years ago. 20 years, the same age I was. He turned to look at me, his silver eyes burning. There's a legend in my family, a prophecy. It says the lost moon princess will return when the realm is on the brink of war, that she'll be the key to saving or destroying us all. I'm not a princess, I whispered. Then why do you have the mark? I went still. How do you know about the mark? I had my healer examine you while you slept. He stood, moving closer. Show me. I should have refused, but something in his voice made it impossible. I turned, pulling my shirt aside, revealing the crescent moon on my shoulder blade. He reached out, his fingers brushing over the mark. The bond roared to life, and I gasped, feeling his touch everywhere. It's real, he murmured. You're real. I turned back to face him, and we were suddenly too close. His hand was still on my shoulder. His eyes were locked on mine. If you're the moon princess, he said slowly, then you're the heir to the northern throne, the bloodline everyone thought was dead. I don't want a throne, I said. I just want to understand why this is happening. The bond doesn't care what you want. His voice dropped. It doesn't care what I want either. Then reject it, I challenged. Reject me. He stared at me like I'd struck him. You think I haven't tried? Before I could respond, a scream tore through the night. We both turned toward the castle. Smoke was rising from the western wing. Flames licked at the windows. Fire! He growled, already moving. Stay here. But I didn't stay. I ran after him, back into the castle, into the chaos. Wolves were shouting, scrambling, trying to contain the blaze. And in the center of it all, I saw her. Vivian. She was standing in the hallway, watching the flames with a smile. Oops, she said, sweetly when she saw the king. I suppose someone should be more careful. His wolf surfaced. What did you do? Nothing you can prove. Her eyes slid to me, but accidents happen, especially to unwanted guests. He moved toward her, rage radiating off him in waves, but before he could reach her, part of the ceiling collapsed. Right above me, I looked up, frozen, knowing I couldn't move fast enough. Then I was flying. The king had grabbed me, pulling me out of the way, his body covering mine as debris rained down. We hit the ground hard, and for a moment, everything was dust and darkness. When I opened my eyes, he was above me, breathing hard, his hands on either side of my head. Are you hurt? He demanded. I shook my head. He didn't move, just stared down at me, something raw and unguarded in his expression. I can't lose you, he said so quietly I almost didn't hear it. I don't know why, but I can't. And for the first time, I believed him. Chapter 4. The fire was contained by morning, but the damage was done. 3 wolves were injured, part of the west wing was destroyed, and Vivian had disappeared. The king called an emergency council meeting. I wasn't invited, but Lila told me everything. They're saying it was sabotage, she whispered, bringing me breakfast, that someone is trying to destabilize the kingdom, and they're blaming you. Me? I was locked in my room. You're an easy target, a stranger, a human, or whatever you are. They want you gone. What does the king say? She hesitated. He's defending you, but it's costing him. The council is starting to question his judgment. I felt sick. This was exactly what I'd feared. The bond was making him weak in their eyes, and I was the reason. I had to leave. It was the only way to protect him. That night, I made my decision. I would run. Disappear back into the world where I came from. The bond would hurt, but it was better than watching him lose everything because of me. I waited until the castle was quiet, then slipped out of my room. I made it to the stables, found a horse, and was about to mount when I heard his voice behind me. Going somewhere? I turned. The king stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. I'm leaving, I said, before I destroy you. You think running will fix this? I think staying will make it worse. He walked toward me slowly, deliberately. You're not leaving. You can't stop me. Yes, he said quietly. I can. Before I could react, he reached out and pulled me to him. His hand cupped the back of my neck, his forehead pressing against mine. I don't know what you are, he murmured. I don't know if you're the lost princess or just some impossible twist of fate, but you're mine, and I don't let go of what's mine. You don't even know me. Then stay. Let me learn. I wanted to pull away, wanted to be strong enough to walk away. But the bond was singing and his hands were warm, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. What if they're right? I whispered. What if I'm a threat? Then we'll deal with it. Together. He kissed my forehead, a gesture so gentle it broke something inside me. Please, he said. Stay. I stayed. The next few weeks were strange. The king kept me close, brought me into meetings, introduced me to his trusted wolves. Some accepted me, most didn't, but he didn't waver. He also started teaching me about my heritage. We spent hours in the library going through old records, trying to piece together what had happened to the Moon Princess. She was stolen the night of her birth, he explained, showing me a faded portrait. The Northern Kingdom fell into chaos. Without an heir, the bloodline was thought to be broken. I stared at the woman in the painting. She looked like me, same eyes, same face. If I'm her, I said slowly, why don't I remember anything? Magic, he said. Someone powerful enough to hide you, to suppress your wolf. Can it be undone? He hesitated. Maybe, but it would be dangerous. I met his eyes. I need to know the truth. He nodded. Then we'll find it. But finding the truth meant digging into dangerous territory, and the deeper we dug, the more enemies we uncovered. There were wolves who didn't want the Moon Princess to return. Wolves who had benefited from the Northern Kingdom's fall. Wolves who would kill to keep the past buried, and one of them was closer than we thought. It happened during a formal dinner. The king had invited several allied packs trying to strengthen his position. I was seated beside him, dressed in silk I still didn't feel comfortable wearing. Vivienne was there too, watching me with cold eyes. Halfway through the meal, one of the visiting alphas stood, raising his glass. A toast, he said smoothly, to the king and to his human companion. The room went tense. She's not human, the king said, his voice deadly calm. Isn't she? The alpha smiled. Forgive me, your majesty, but we've all heard the rumors. A lost princess, a convenient story. But where's the proof? The mark, someone else said. Anyone can fake a mark. Enough, the king growled. But the alpha wasn't done. If she truly is the Moon Princess, then let her prove it. Let her shift. Silence fell. I couldn't breathe. She can't shift, Vivienne said sweetly, because she doesn't have a wolf. The king's fist slammed onto the table. I said enough. But the damage was done. The doubt was planted. And I knew they were right. I didn't have a wolf. I couldn't prove anything. I stood, my chair scraping back. Excuse me. I left the room before anyone could stop me, my chest tight, my eyes burning. I made it to the garden before I broke down. I wasn't a princess. I was just a girl who didn't belong, and I was going to ruin him. I didn't hear him approach, but suddenly he was there, pulling me into his arms. Don't listen to them, he said fiercely. They're right, I choked out. I can't prove anything. You're everything. He tilted my face up, forcing me to look at him. I don't care if you never shift. I don't care if you're not the princess. You're my mate. That's all that matters. It's not enough, I whispered. It's everything. And then he kissed me. It was desperate and fierce and full of everything we'd been holding back. The bond ignited, burning through me, and I kissed him back like he was the only solid thing in the world. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. I'll find a way to unlock your wolf, he promised. I'll find the witch who hid you. I'll break the spell, whatever it takes. And if you can't, then we fight anyway. I believed him. But neither of us saw the shadow watching from the trees, or the blade being sharpened in the dark. Chapter 5. The attempt on my life came 3 days later. I was walking through the castle corridors when I felt it, a shift in the air, a prickling awareness. I turned just in time to see the blade coming toward me. Instinct took over. I dodged, the knife slicing through the sleeve of my dress instead of my throat. My attacker lunged again, and I ran. I didn't make it far. He grabbed me, slamming me against the wall. I saw his face, a guard I'd seen around the castle, his eyes empty and cold. Nothing personal, he muttered, just business. He raised the knife. Then he was ripped away from me. The king had him by the throat, his wolf fully surfaced, his eyes blazing silver. The guard didn't stand a chance. Within seconds, he was on the ground, unconscious. The king turned to me, his hands gentle as they cupped my face. Are you hurt? I shook my head, still shaking. Who sent you? He snarled at the guard. The man laughed, blood on his teeth. You'll never find them. They're everywhere, and they won't stop until she's dead. The king's jaw tightened. He looked at me, then back at the guard. Lock him up. I want answers. But the guard never talked. By morning, he was found dead in his cell, poisoned. The castle was no longer safe. The king moved me to his personal quarters, stationed guards outside at all times. But I could see the strain on him. He was fighting a war on multiple fronts, external threats, internal betrayal, and the bond pulling him toward me when he needed to focus. "I'm making you weaker," I said one night. We were alone in his chambers, the fire crackling low. He was standing by the window, his back to me. "You're making me stronger," he said without turning. "They're trying to kill me because of what I represent, and you're losing allies because you won't let me go." He spun around, crossing the room in 2 strides. "I will never let you go, even if it costs you everything, especially then." He took my hands. "You don't understand. Before you, I was empty. I ruled because I had to. I fought because that's what was expected, but I didn't feel anything. And then you walked into that throne room, and for the first time in my life, I felt alive." Tears burned my eyes. "I'm scared." "So am I," he admitted. "But I'd rather face that fear with you than live safely without you." He kissed me then, slow and deep, and I let myself believe that maybe, somehow, we could survive this. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Lila burst into the room one morning, her eyes wide. "I found something in the old archives, a name." "What name?" the king demanded. "Morgana, a witch who served the northern court 20 years ago. She disappeared the same night the moon princess was taken." I felt my heart skip. Where is she now? No one knows. But there are rumors of a witch living in the Shadowlands. They say she can undo any spell. The king and I exchanged a look. "We leave tonight," he said. The journey to the Shadowlands was brutal. It took us through hostile territory, past packs that wanted me dead, through forests that felt wrong. But the king never left my side. We traveled with a small group, his most trusted warriors. But even they seemed uneasy as we crossed into the Shadowlands. The air here was different, heavier, darker. Magic clung to everything. We found the witch's cottage deep in the woods. It was small, covered in vines, smoke rising from the chimney. The king knocked. The door opened, and an old woman stood there, her eyes sharp and knowing. "I've been expecting you," she said. Inside, the cottage was filled with herbs, books, and strange artifacts. Morgana gestured for us to sit. "You want me to break the binding spell?" she said, looking at me. "Yes," I said. "It will hurt, and it might not work. The spell was designed to be permanent." "I don't care," I said. "I need to know who I am." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well." She began the ritual, chanting in a language I didn't recognize. The air around us shimmered. Pain lanced through my chest, sharp and burning. I gasped, and the king grabbed my hand. "Hold on," he whispered. The pain intensified, spreading through my entire body. I felt something inside me breaking, cracking, shattering, and then it was free. A howl tore from my throat, primal and wild. Light exploded around me, bright and silver. I felt my bones shift, my body changing, power flooding through me like a tidal wave. When it was over, I was on the ground, gasping, but I felt it, felt her, my wolf. She was strong, ancient, powerful, and she recognized the king's wolf immediately. "Mate," she whispered. I looked up at him, tears streaming down my face. "I can feel her," I said. "I can feel my wolf." He pulled me into his arms, holding me tight. "You did it." Morgana watched us, her expression unreadable. "The binding is broken, but be warned. Now that your wolf is free, your enemies will sense it. They'll know you're the true heir, and they'll come for you with everything they have." "Let them come," the king said. We left the cottage, my wolf humming beneath my skin. I wasn't just a lost girl anymore. I was the Moon Princess, and I was done hiding. Chapter 6. The attack came the moment we crossed back into the king's territory. They were waiting for us, an army of rogues and traitors led by someone I never expected. Vivian. She stepped out of the trees, dressed in armor, a cruel smile on her face. "Hello, darling," she said to the king. "Miss me?" "You're behind this," he growled. "Of course I am." She laughed. "Did you really think I'd let some filthy half-blood take what's mine?" I was never yours, he said coldly. You were supposed to be. Her voice turned shrill. I did everything right. I waited. I played the perfect partner, and then she showed up and ruined everything. You tried to kill her, the king said, his wolf rising, and I'll finish the job today. She gestured, and her rogue surged forward. The fight was brutal. The king's warriors fought fiercely, but we were outnumbered. I felt my wolf clawing to get out, desperate to protect, to fight. Let me shift, I said to the king. You've never shifted before, he said. It's too dangerous. I don't care. I won't watch you die for me. He looked at me, conflict bearing in his eyes. Then he nodded. I closed my eyes and reached for my wolf. She came willingly, surging forward. Pain and power collided, and then I was shifting. It was agony and ecstasy all at once. My body transformed, bones reshaping, fur sprouting, and when it was done, I stood on 4 legs, my wolf finally free. She was massive, silver and white, glowing faintly under the moonlight. The rogues froze, staring. Vivian's face went pale. No, that's impossible. But it wasn't. I was the Moon Princess, and my wolf was born from ancient royal blood. I lunged. The battle turned. My wolf was faster, stronger, more powerful than I'd imagined. I fought alongside the king, our wolves moving in perfect sync, the bond making us unstoppable. Vivian tried to run, but I caught her. She shifted back, bleeding, broken. Please, she gasped. Mercy! I shifted back too, standing over her. You tried to kill me. You betrayed your king. You don't deserve mercy. Then kill me, she spat. No, the king said, stepping beside me. Death is too easy. You'll stand trial. Face justice. She was dragged away screaming. The aftermath was chaotic. We returned to the capital to find the council in upheaval. But with my wolf now revealed, with the proof undeniable, they had no choice but to accept the truth. I was the Moon Princess, the lost heir, and the king's true mate. A formal ceremony was held. I was acknowledged before the entire realm, my bloodline restored. The northern kingdom, which had been in ruins for 20 years, began to rebuild. But more than that, I had found my place. The king stood beside me on the balcony, looking out over the city. Are you ready for this? He asked. I don't know, I admitted. It's a lot. You'll be amazing. He turned to me, taking my hand. And you won't be alone. You'll have me, always. I smiled. Promise? I promise. He kissed me, soft and slow, the bond glowing warm between us. I'd spent my whole life believing I was nothing, a human, a mistake, disposable. But I was wrong. I was powerful. I was loved. I was chosen. And I was home.